Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are back with episode 2 of our series on Brian Tracy's focal point.
That's right.
If you were with us last time,
Yeah.
we really set the stage for finding that one single leverage point in your life. But
Today's different.
today we are rolling up our sleeves. We are tackling chapter 2. And honestly, the title alone is enough to make a skeptic, roll their eyes. Double your productivity.
It is a bold claim. It sounds like something you'd see on a pop-up ad from, like, the late 90s.
Exactly.
But what's so interesting about Tracy is that he treats productivity less like a hack and more like a law of physics. It's just cause and effect.
Right. And before we just dismiss the title as, clickbait, there is a statistic right at the top of the chapter that just stopped me cold.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
I had to read it twice because my first reaction was just, no way.
Oh.
Tracy claims that for every 1 minute you spend planning, you save up to 10 minutes in execution.
10 minutes. It's a 1,000% return on your investment of time.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second here. Because in the real world, my inbox is exploding, Slack is dinging all the time. Sitting down to plan feels like I'm wasting time. I feel like I need to be doing things. Isn't that the trap most of us fall into?
That is the action addiction. It feels productive to be busy. It feels good to check a small box, right?
Yeah.
But just think about that ratio. If you spend, say, 10 to 12 minutes planning out your day, you are theoretically saving almost 2 hours of wasted effort.
2 hours.
The reason we don't believe it is because we don't see the time we waste backtracking or fixing mistakes or, and this is the big one, realizing halfway through a project that we're solving the wrong problem entirely.
Oh, the fixing mistakes part hits home. There is absolutely nothing less productive than doing something very efficiently that shouldn't have been done in the first place.
And that's the absolute core of this chapter. Tracy argues that most people just dive into work without having the end in mind. They confuse activity with accomplishment.
They're just running incredibly fast on a hamster wheel. Exactly.
So, okay, let's get off the hamster wheel. Tracy lays out a framework here. He calls it the 5 questions for superior performance. And I really want to spend some time on this because it isn't just a checklist. It's more of a mental model.
It is. And he says you have to ask these before you start any major task. So the first 2, they seem deceptively simple. Question 1 is just, what am I trying to do?
Okay.
And question 2, how am I trying to do it?
Simple enough. I'm trying to launch a marketing campaign, and I'm using email and social ads. Done. Next.
Well, not so fast, because if you actually sit with what am I trying to do, you might realize, wait a minute, am I trying to launch a campaign or am I actually trying to generate leads?
Those are different goals.
Totally different goals. But the real friction, the part that really trips up smart people, that comes with question 3.
Which is, what are my assumptions?
This is the absolute killer. We all operate on these, invisible scripts. We just assume the client wants X. We assume that deadline is flexible. We assume we have the budget.
Right. Tracy demands that you list these out explicitly.
But isn't the whole nature of an assumption that you don't know it's an assumption? You just think it's a fact.
That's why you have to get it out of your head and onto paper. You have to write down, I'm assuming the tech team can build this feature in 2 weeks. Once it's on paper, you can look at it objectively. And that leads to the scariest question of all, which is question 4. What if my assumptions were wrong?
That is an ego-bruising question right there.
Oh, it requires massive humility. And then finally, question 5 is, what would I have to do differently if my key assumptions were wrong?
I love that line in the book where he says you have to focus on what is right, not who is right.
Yes.
But let's be real. In a corporate environment, or even just in a partnership, admitting your big assumption was wrong can feel like you're admitting incompetence.
It feels that way, of course. But the alternative is what? Spending 6 months building a bridge to nowhere? The most productive people are just the ones who are willing to pivot the fastest when the data says they're wrong.
So be rigid on the goal, but flexible on the method.
You've got it.
Okay, so we've grilled ourselves with these 5 questions. We've got a plan. But now we look at our to-do list, and it's still a mile long. Everything feels important. Everything feels like it needs to happen now.
Yeah, the overwhelm.
So how does Tracy suggest we cut through that noise?
So he uses the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, but he adds this very specific definition of importance that I think changes the whole game.
Okay.
He defines importance strictly and only by consequences.
Unpack that for me. Because to me, important usually just means the thing that's causing me the most anxiety right now.
And see, that's usually urgency, not importance. Tracy says something is important only if it has significant consequences if you do it, or, significant negative consequences if you don't.
Okay.
And on the flip side, something is unimportant if the consequences are minor, regardless of how loud or urgent it feels.
So like checking email.
Exactly. Unless there's a five-alarm fire in an email from a huge client, the consequence of checking it now versus in an hour is basically zero.
Unimportant.
Totally unimportant.
Okay, what about preparing for the quarterly review that determines my whole department's budget?
Massive consequences, highly important. And the real insight is that 20% of your tasks will account for 80% of the consequences.
Wow.
The other 80%, all the busy work, the meetings with no agenda, the endless Slack chatter, it contributes almost nothing to your actual long-term success.
But here's the friction point, right? We logically know this. We know the big report is important, but we still spend the morning just clearing out the inbox. Why do we gravitate toward the low-value stuff?
Because the low-value stuff is almost always easier. It gives you a quick dopamine hit. Look at me, I replied to 20 emails. You feel productive.
Right.
The important stuff, what some people call the big rock tasks, they're usually hard, they're complex, they're intimidating. They don't offer that instant gratification.
And that brings us right to the urgent versus important battle. This is classic Eisenhower matrix stuff, but Tracy frames it really well.
He does. Urgent is the phone ringing. It's the colleague standing at your desk. It just screams, do me now.
Yeah.
But important tasks like strategic planning or learning a new skill or building key relationships, those things are rarely urgent. No one is banging on your door demanding you read a book on leadership today.
So the trap is just getting stuck in that urgent but not important quadrant. We're just putting out fires that, frankly, didn't need to be lit in the first place.
And we're ignoring the fireproofing that would save us in the long run.
Okay, so we need a system, something to force us into that high-value zone. Tracy outlines the ABCDE method. Now, I've heard variations of this, but I want to look at where people usually fail with it.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the basics first?
For sure. It's a sorting mechanism. You list everything you have to do. A tasks are your must-dos.
Okay.
Serious consequences if you don't do them. These are the frogs you have to eat first. B tasks are should-dos. The consequences are mild. Maybe someone gets a little annoyed, but, no one gets fired.
And C.
C tasks are nice-to-dos. Lunch with a coworker, organizing your desktop. Basically no consequences. Then D is for delegate and E is for eliminate.
The definitions are really clear, but the execution, I think, is brutal. Tracy has a rule here that's just so tough. Never do a B task when there's an A task left undone.
That is the discipline. That's the whole game.
But that's so hard. A B task is almost always easier than an A task. And a lot of the time, the B task involves someone else waiting on you.
Mm-hmm.
So if I ignore those should-dos to focus on the one must-do, I'm going to annoy people.
You might. And that's the price of high productivity. You have to be willing to tolerate the mild discomfort of a B task waiting or a colleague waiting in order to get the huge payoff of finishing the A task.
That's a great way to put it.
If you clear all the B's and C's first, you will simply run out of energy before you even get to the A.
It's prioritizing effectiveness over, popularity in a way.
Or effectiveness over just tidiness. We like to clear the decks, but sometimes you have to leave the deck messy to steer the ship.
Okay, let's talk about eliminate, because this is my favorite part, but it's also the one I struggle with the most. Tracy says we carry around tasks just out of habit.
We do. We hold on to these tasks that used to be important, but, they aren't anymore. Or tasks we think we should do because of some kind of social pressure. The question to ask is simple. If I didn't do this at all, what would actually happen? And if the answer is nothing much,
You kill it.
you kill it.
It sounds so liberating, but it's also scary. It feels a little like quitting.
It's not quitting, it's pruning. You're pruning the dead branches so the whole tree can grow. You can't double your productivity by doing more. You can only do it by doing less of the low-value stuff.
I want to shift gears to the micro-habits section here. These are the tactical things we can actually do tomorrow. The first one is think on paper. Now, in 2026, does this still apply? Can't I just use my phone or some task manager app?
You can, but Tracy is really adamant about paper, or at least the physical act of writing, for a good reason. There's some real cognitive science here.
Okay.
When you write something down by hand, you engage different parts of your brain than when you just type it or think it. It makes the goal concrete.
It's that psychomotor connection.
Exactly. And plus, a digital list is hidden behind a screen. A paper list on your desk is this constant visual reminder. It creates what he calls a visual record of accomplishment.
I have to admit, there is something deeply satisfying about aggressively scribbling out a completed task with a pen. Swiping a notification away just doesn't hit the same.
It builds momentum. And speaking of momentum, that leads right into the second major habit, single handling.
The anti-multitasking rule.
The source material is very, very firm on this. Tracy cites a stat that you can reduce the time spent on a task by up to 80%.
80%.
Simply by refusing to do anything else until it is finished.
That seems impossibly high. How is that even possible?
Well, think about the switching cost. Every time you stop writing a report to check an email, your brain has to offload the entire context of the report, load the context of the email, then offload the email, and then try to reload the report.
And you have to figure out where you were, reread the last sentence.
Get back into the flow. Exactly. The back and forth just burns huge amounts of cognitive fuel. It's incredibly inefficient.
So single handling means once you pick up that A task, you do not put it down until it's 100% complete.
Or at least until you reach a predefined milestone if it's a huge project. But you do not switch contexts. You lock the door, you turn off the phone, and you execute.
Which brings up a mental hack Tracy suggests. To keep us focused when that urge to distract ourselves hits, he says we should constantly ask ourselves, why am I on the payroll?
This is such a harsh reality check. It strips away all the fluff. You aren't on the payroll to attend meetings or answer emails.
Right.
You are on the payroll to generate specific, valuable results.
It's an awkward question to ask yourself. Like, am I being paid my hourly rate, whatever that is, to organize my desktop icons right now?
And if the answer is no, you stop. It forces you to look at your time through the lens of an investor. Is this activity yielding a return on the salary I'm being paid?
Another hack he mentions is gamification, basically racing against yourself.
This is great for competitive types. If you think a task will take an hour, you set a timer for 45 minutes. You just try to beat the clock.
It creates artificial urgency.
It does. It forces you to focus because you don't have the luxury of getting distracted if you want to win the race.
I do this with cleaning the house, but I never thought to apply it to, deep work. It makes perfect sense. Parkinson's law says work expands to fill the time available.
So shrink the time.
So you shrink the time.
Precisely. You shrink the container and the focus has to intensify.
We've covered a lot of tactics lists, questions, habits, but I want to land on the philosophy behind this whole chapter. Because if this was just about getting more work done, it would be kind of soul-crushing. But Tracy connects productivity directly to self-worth.
And this is the power quote of the entire deep dive for me. Tracy writes, time management is really life management and personal management.
Wow. That hits deep. It stops being about corporate efficiency and it starts being about, personal agency.
It's this idea that how you spend your time is a direct statement about how you value your life.
Yeah.
If you let other people and distractions dictate your day, if you let them eat up your hours, you are essentially saying my time and by extension, my life isn't that valuable.
Oof. That is a heavy realization.
But the flip side is so empowering. When you plan your day, when you protect your time, when you single-handle those important A tasks, you are sending a signal to yourself. I matter, my goals matter.
So productivity becomes a form of self-care almost.
Yeah.
It's not about burnout. It's about respecting your own potential enough to not waste it.
And that builds self-esteem. Tracy calls it the law of increasing returns. The more you practice these habits, the better you feel about yourself. The better you feel, the more energy you have.
And the more energy you have, the more productive you become.
Yeah.
It's a positive spiral upwards.
Exactly. Burnout doesn't come from working hard. It comes from spinning your ways, doing that urgent but not important work, and feeling like you're getting absolutely nowhere.
While real, meaningful accomplishment, that's energizing.
That's the fuel.
So we've unpacked the 1.10 planning ratio, the 5 questions to check our assumptions, the ABCDE method to prioritize by consequence, and the power of single handling.
It's a complete ecosystem for owning your day. It all works together.
I want to leave our listeners with a specific challenge. We talked about the micro habit. If they're going to do just one thing differently tomorrow morning, what should it be?
Don't wait for tomorrow morning. Do it tonight. The habit is plan your tomorrow tonight.
Okay, what tonight?
2 big reasons. 1, your subconscious actually works on the plan while you sleep. You'll often wake up with new ideas or solutions you didn't have before. And 2, you start the day hitting the ground running. You don't waste that fresh morning energy just figuring out what to do. You just execute.
So the action item is sit down tonight, Write out the list on paper, apply the ABCDE method, identify that one big A frog, and just leave it on your desk for the morning.
That's it. Even if you only spend 10 minutes planning, just remember.
That could be nearly 2 hours of execution saved.
That is a trade I will take any day of the week.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a massive dive into the mechanics of high performance. It turns out double your productivity isn't just a catchy headline.
It's a math problem you can actually solve if you have the discipline. And it's a life philosophy. Value your time, value yourself.
We are going to continue this journey through Focal Point in the next deep dive, where we get into simplifying your life even further. You will not want to miss that.
Oh, it gets even better.
So make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a like so you get notified when the next one drops. Until then, remember, if you assume your time is worth, say, $1,000 an hour, would you still be doing what you're doing right now?
Something to think about.
Thanks for listening. Go make it count.